Oh, the poor old Royal Caribbean Vision class that so regularly gets slammed by reviewers. But in these times when cruising is getting more and more expensive, the Vision class ships often give some really good deals. Should you ignore the horrific reviews and book it? Let's dive into that today. My heart breaks for Royal Caribbean's oldest class of ships, the Vision class, which consists of the Vision of the Seas, Grandeur of the Seas, Rhapsody of the Seas, and Enchantment of the Seas. 2 other Vision class ships have already been sold by Royal Caribbean, and there are plenty of people on the internet who say the same thing should happen to the entire line of them. But are they right? I put the Vision of the Seas to the ultimate test on one of their longer cruise options, departing Baltimore, Maryland, and cruising for 9 nights to Bermuda, Nassau, and Perfect Day at Coco Cay. Was it 9 nights of bliss or 9 nights of words I prefer not to say on YouTube? Let me say up front that I am not a travel agent, and I am completely unsponsored, and we pay for our cruises just like you do. That allows me to be completely unbiased. Hey, I'm not even a big YouTuber, though I confess I'd like to be, so if you'd hit that subscribe button, it would make my day. But my point is, I have the ability to be brutally honest with you about my experiences. So here it goes. Just like a lot of Royal Caribbean cruisers, I have been sufficiently dazzled by some of their newer ships that feature water slides, surfing, top-of-the-line entertainment, and other wow experiences. The Vision of the Seas, well, it's an entirely different experience, and to be honest, I can understand why a lot of people cringe when they see its age and lineup of entertainment if they've been on Royal Caribbean's newer ships and are expecting the equivalent. But please keep an open mind. First, I'm going to start with the good rather than the bad, and I invite you to comment below if you have any input because it's so helpful for others who are choosing a cruise. Here's what I found that the Vision of the Seas has that I simply haven't found on the newer ships. The Vision has a crew that is absolutely phenomenal. Now, all ships, in my opinion, have amazing, hardworking crew, but I have never experienced a crew quite like this. The cruise director is a superstar, and everyone makes it their job to really get to know you in a way that I just haven't quite found on other cruise ships. I think a lot of this might be because of the ship's size and the fact that there are fewer people to get to know. But there's really something else at work here, and I think it's because the crew knows that their ship is a little, well, tired. So they try to make up for it by showcasing their own wonderful personalities and really making you feel like by being on board the Vision, you are a part of their family. I can't give them enough kudos for that. Now let's move on to entertainment. You won't find Royal Caribbean's higher tier entertainment on board. There won't be big budget spectacles like the shows in the Aqua Theater, which I'm actually quite addicted to. In fact, there is no Aqua Theater or even anything remotely reminiscent of it on board the Vision class ships. You also won't find Broadway-style shows like the Icon's new Wizard of Oz, or the ice skating shows, or anything using some of those incredible drones you see in the newer ships. But you will find outstanding talent on board that pour their heart and soul into performances. There's lots of singing and review-style shows rather than shows that have a definitive plot. You'll also see rotating performers like comedians, magicians, or jugglers. Some of those are good, and I'll be honest, I saw one that I actually walked out on. It was so bad. I think that was the only time I've ever actually walked out on a show in my life, except for a really bad date I recall in my 20s, but that's another story. So yes, the entertainment isn't nearly as spectacular as you'll see on the newer ships, but overall the talent is there in great abundance. And as I'm still focusing on the good, let me address another elephant in the room. The fact that they don't have anything like surfing or water slides or simulated skydiving or, well, absolutely any of the bells and whistles that many of us expect on a Royal Caribbean cruise. The Vision tries to make up for it again with their wildly interactive crew, who put on plenty of events like a little carnival with old-style games like beanbag toss and hula hoop contests. You'll find plenty of trivia, sing-alongs, and even origami making classes. So if you're open to some of those simpler, less flashy pleasures, you'll never be bored. And of course, there will still be plenty of silent disco and karaoke. They also have a casino, a couple pools and hot tubs, and while they're not sparkling new and the decor around them is a little, well, let's call it retro, they get the job done. Now let's dive into the bad things about the ship, and in my usual style, I'm going to keep it gentle, even though I'm told that the YouTube algorithm doesn't like gentle. So I'm hoping you'll hit that thumbs up button right now to tell YouTube that sometimes it's nice to be kinder in our opinions. Yes, the Vision of the Seas is very dated, but for Gen Xers like my husband and I, we didn't really mind. I mean, maybe it can even be considered a plus. I can walk around the ship and pretend I'm back in my 30s. Yes, they've also got shower curtains, and I realize that is a huge red flag for a lot of you, and honestly, I'm right there with you. The showers on board this ship were the worst I've ever experienced on a cruise. I could give you details, but they are kind of gross and very cringy, and to be honest, I'm hoping that they weren't an indication of what all the other showers were like on board. But again, the crew jumped in to rectify things, and I can't help adding that, well, what more can I ask from a ship that's almost 30 years old? And let's address those reviews that claim it's dirty. My friends, you're going to experience dirtiness on all cruise ships, even the new ones from time to time. That just comes from it being a giant floating resort crammed with a boatload, no pun intended, of people. But I think the reason why it comes up more in Vision class ship reviews is simply because what people are really seeing is age rather than dirt. I did see a lot of rust and broken things on board, and areas that were in need of a fresh coat of paint or new carpeting. There was an area in particular called the Some Enchanted Evening Lounge that just smelled old and musty. And there were plenty of fake plants that really looked like they needed a good dusting, which is why I hate fake plants, because they pretty much always look like they need dusting after a few years. So I can see why there might be some points of contention with regard to cleanliness, though I'd argue it's simply old age. Hey, I'm not looking as pristine and flashy these days either. So is it worth a try? It completely depends on what you're looking for. If you want a ship where the crew are first rate and you enjoy some of those old school types of entertainment rather than a lot of shock and awe, the Vision class ships might serve you well. But if you're looking for flashy, new, innovative, or sparkling, I'd stick with the newer ships because you might find the Vision class a little bit lacking. As for the question of whether I'd ever go on board a Vision class ship again, well, I might for a shorter trip rather than a 9-night cruise like I did. In truth, I'm pretty easy to entertain and enjoy simply sitting and reading a book for hours on end. But even though I don't regret taking the cruise at all, I'll admit I got a little bored, specifically of the food by the end of my cruise. So 9 nights was a bit much for me. But I think a 5-night one on this might just hit that sweet spot. But also, let's face it, at my age, I kind of want to keep adding new experiences to my life rather than revisiting old ones. So I might not go on the Vision of the Seas specifically again, just because I'd rather check another one off my list. So do I recommend it for you? Well, since we all seek out different things when we cruise, that's impossible for me to say. That's why I'd really appreciate it if everyone would comment below if you have your own thoughts on these older ships, because all that diverse input can really be helpful to others. And when you do it, I'd be so grateful if you'd hit that subscribe button. As always, thanks so much for watching, for commenting, for subscribing, and for making this such a wonderful, supportive community.